Hi, this is Chris Haughey. Thank you for joining me on Create with Chris for this acrylic painting tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to easily paint this Eerie Halloween candle step by step. So let's get started. I have traced on the outline for the candle and I loaded the toe of my 1/2 inch angle with antique white. I have it thinned down quite a bit with water, and that's just going to help the paint to flow on very smoothly and easily. I am just using the toe of my brush to edge out around all of the drips at the top and then pulling that paint down in a vertical direction so that I maintain the shape of the candle shaft, just nice and loose. The paint is so thin that it's very easy to move around and work with. And I am just switching over to a number 5 radical round to blend that all together and to smooth it into that paint on the shaft so that I still maintain the direction of the candle and the drips. So much easier to paint loosely and just blend it together. You get some really nice, unique brush strokes doing this. Now the candle wax was a little bit above the pumpkin and I wanted the candle to sit down on the tabletop, so I did move that wax drip down just a little bit. Still maintaining that up and down direction. With the thin paint, working in layers, each layer is going to add to the prior layer. It just makes some really interesting effects. I did switch over to bleached sand, which is a little bit lighter in color, to paint the drips. Still using the number 5 radical round and creating each one of those drips individually. It just really works well. Results are just nice, unusual layers of paint that you can't get if you paint it solid. Loose enough that I can move that paint around and just build those layers of wax. And you can see the shaft is a little bit different, but by the time we go back and add layers, it all pulls together nicely. Loaded the toe again with antique white, and I'm just enhancing or brightening those layers that I previously added, starting to build more volume to the candle, and I can control those edges and keep those fairly tight. And you can see I use the toe to do my fine painting with, and the rest of the brush to just blend it in. And make sure you don't have stop and start lines. That's so important. When painting something like this, it's very unfussy, so you don't have to be precise, especially with it being a Halloween candle. You don't have to worry about being perfect. Now I'm adding a little bit of shading with antique white on the drips. Even though my light source is mainly from the candle, I'm going to be putting most of my shading on the bottom and the right side. Brightening up those drips a little bit with another application of bleached sand, blending it into the antique white. Now, even though it doesn't show it here, I do let each layer of paint dry before I add the next. Kind of tapping that middle area in because I want it to look like layers of drips and not just one big drip coming over. And using the 1/4 inch brush, a little bit more control with a 1/4 inch brush. See how I just swoop those little drips in there? I do want to straighten up those, especially the top edges, and get a nice clean line. And I'm using the chisel edge of my brush to clean that up. Just going to enhance those brighter areas where the light's going to hit with bleached sand, pulling some of that down in the lower part of the candle as well. And you can create multiple drips just by the way that you lay the paint in. It's so much fun and it looks so good. And even though my strokes are kind of choppy, I blend them so I don't have stop and start marks. But look how it's building those layers of candle. It's not flat. I didn't want a flat look. And by just laying these colors in, and I went back to antique white to just strengthen that base color of the candle. And I'm leaving some of those dark areas in there. I like the way that looks. You can't get this look if you paint it solid from the get-go. So just kind of relax and let the paint build itself. A little bit of spiced pumpkin in there. I'm thinking that the candle's going to reflect some of that color from the pumpkin, but I'm taking my finger and kind of smudging it out, so I just have a hint of color, mostly on the right side. Just adds a little more drama. Now I have picked up some black plum. It's a beautiful shadow color. It's kind of a purpley dark color. It's just perfect. I use this in the background. I used it on the pumpkin. It's my coordinating thread of color for this entire design. And I'm going to kind of scoop in that well for the wick to come out of with just a little float of that black plum. I have just a touch on the toe of my brush. The rest has water in it, so I can use the heel of the brush to blend it out. The toe allows me to really define where I want to add the paint. I stay up on the toe to kind of pinpoint those areas in there. If I want to blend it out, then I can lean back on the heel of the brush and let it blend out nicely. And just really enhance those dark areas. This is the same thing we did with the application of the candle color. Just layers of color. Just one layer builds on the next layer to create that really interesting look of ridges and valleys and that lumpiness of the candle. Don't try to achieve all of the shading with one application. It just do a lot of if I go back and add layers of color, it just really works so much more nicely. Heavy color doesn't give you that eerie glow that we're looking for. Just be patient, let those colors build. You can go in, and if it's too solid, I just like that side drip, just add a few touches of shading. It breaks it up. It really makes it look like there's a lot going on there. Little bit of brighter white to just enhance just a few of those. You can see I'm not adding it everywhere. Just want to add a few pops of color. Bright edges, especially right around that candle flame. It's going to be the strongest. As the light falls away, it's not going to be quite as bright. Too many highlights, you lose that impact. So make sure that you keep that focused. Just do a few here and there. If it's everywhere too much, then it just becomes kind of boring. Look how that just very easily has all kind of fallen into place. Now, because the flame's going to be on a dark area, I did base coat it with bleached sand to give a nice solid base. Going back now with more black plum. Just to strengthen those shadows. You want a lot of contrast. If you have a really bright, you need a really dark. And that's what makes it work. This right side is going to be much darker than the left. Need to pull down that tabletop to give it a good base to stand on. Blend it all together. Don't just work in one area. It flows much easier if you work one area and bring it across and pull everything together. I will go back and finish up the tabletop later, but because I added some light in there, I want to pull it across so that it works together. Don't lose all your darks though. Still going with that 1/2 inch angle. I use that so much. It's really nice to stay on that point and pull those colors in. A little bit of sunset gold to add that yellow to the flame. Very, very thin. That sunset gold is a strong color. You don't need much. Let it dry, and now I'm pulling in just a little bit of heritage brick on the toe of my brush, kind of tapping it out. I want that flame to flicker and dance, so I'm not doing a solid float. It's kind of a chop and a tap, pulling that up, letting it bounce around into that yellow area. Now I'm pulling in that really bright, strong snow white highlight. This will not be a solid shape. It's not a common stroke. It's just kind of hitting and bouncing with the bristles of my brush to create that really strong heart of the candle flame, where that flicker is just really gonna be bright and those colors bounce off. Now I did pull it a little bit to the left, but it's much, much lighter. Strengthening that white again. Just really need that to be where the strength of the flame is. Soft black Epic script liner to create that wick, to make it stand out a little more. I made that where the flame is just a little bit thicker at the base, and highlight that down that side with snow white. Look how that flickers and dances. Just that combination of different colors, building one on the other. It's not smooth, but that's what makes it work so well. This is the finished project, and I loved how it turned out, but to me the candle is kind of the star of the show, and I was anxious to do a video and share how easy it is to create. I hope you love it and give it a try. If you would like your own printable pattern, it's called A Night to Remember. It includes complete instructions, color photo, traceable. Just click the link below. Remember, the surface and all the supplies that I used are available at my website, cdwood.com. So I hope you learned some new tips, tricks, and techniques to make your painting life a little easier and a lot more fun. Check out my other videos on YouTube. Please share, like, and subscribe to my channel. Remember to hit the bell to be notified when my next video is created. I thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to our next painting adventure together.